Welcome to Korbel Honors, a celebration of the Joseph Korbel School of Global and Public Affairs and its impact in the world.
Korbel really gave me the opportunity to be in the driver's seat, the autonomy to be myself and also educate others.
Our students at Korbel are so enthusiastic and really concerned about making a big difference.
This was the place that I think I really found who I want to be in my career. I met like-minded people who share in a vision of a better world.
The major highlight for me was being able to have those conversations in between seminars and classes and courses in the hallways and expand my mind on different things.
We train our students not only to be good at their jobs, but to actually be really strong pillars of their communities.
I have found an incredible community. I've learned so much, even just at pop-up policy events or different panel events every day. I'm so grateful just to be here.
My goals as a professor are to provoke students in the classroom to make connections between the things that they read in their books and the things they might even know about in their personal lives and the broader social world.
Taking Dr. Barry's Foundations of Global Social Justice course has really impacted my outlook of myself as a student, but then even what it looks like to be a global citizen.
Because of the nature of the classes, I was able to not only connect better with the students there, but with the professors, and really learn how to effectively communicate in whatever the topic was.
Getting to know each student and their dreams for this world to be a better place. That for me motivates me.
It's not just the books that they author or the lectures that they deliver, it's really about how they're able to help enlighten the minds of tomorrow.
Because of the opportunities that Korbel is able to provide, I was able to develop my own course where I take students to Kenya. Our students get to work with local professors. They're interacting with members of parliament and senators. These experiences, they provide long-lasting lessons.
I just returned from New Delhi, India as a student participant in the IE Rasina Global Student Challenge. Students from around the world work in interregional teams to be able to come up with some different frameworks for pressing global challenges.
Students have accompanied me on fieldwork trips to Nepal and to Bosnia. I was able to take students to Mexico City, where we hosted this Institute of Feminist Activists from across Latin America.
So I studied abroad in Mexico City at Tec de Monterrey School of Government and Public Transformation. I have such a love for intercultural communication and exploring what we have in common in the world rather than what divides us.
Currently, I'm the senior advisor for the Senate President at the Colorado State Senate. Korbel taught me to question and take me out of the equation, think about others.
Korbel just does a really great job of breaking down barriers, building community, opening dialogue, and challenging our own perspectives.
I'm a program officer with the International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives. I help implement a federally funded sustainability and clean energy program. Because of Korbel, I've been able to grow professionally in ways that I never saw it coming.
I would love to situate myself in a community just like Denver, where I could be moving the needle on issues like immigrant rights and gender justice. Because of Korbel, I have the belief that I can be anywhere in the world and make a difference.
Well, good evening. It is wonderful to see so many people here this evening and such an exciting evening for all of us here. My name is Fritz Mayer. It is my great honor and privilege to be the Dean of the Joseph Korbel School of Global and Public Affairs here at the University of Denver. By the way, that film was terrific. It really gives you a bit of a glimpse into what the place is about, the kind of spirit, the community that we have. Chancellor Hafner, Provost Laboa, DU trustees, faculty, staff, students, alumni, friends, welcome to Korbel Honors. Tonight we celebrate our collective work and remind ourselves why we do what we do. Quickly, a special word of thanks to Judith and Gary Judd and the Social Science Foundation for their generosity in making this possible. And also, I want to say thank you to our staff, Jill Schmieder-Hero, Sage Brewer, Elena Panipatome, who's responsible for all of the back scenes work to make tonight's possible. So thank you to my staff. We live in a time of great transformation. The world order established 80 years ago in the aftermath of World War II is fracturing. How do we build a better one? Here at home, division and polarization threaten our social fabric. How do we relearn how to hear each other, embrace our differences, and make good on the promise of e pluribus unum? AI is coming at us fast. How do we harness it for good? And much more. It's no good to bemoan the changes and the challenges. We don't get to choose the time we are given, only what to do with it. And that's what we're about at the Korbel School and at the University of Denver, deciding what to do with this time, how to meet this moment. Because there's never been a more important moment for a School of Global and Public Affairs, in my view, or indeed for a university. You know, why do we here at the University of Denver have the audacity to think that we can tackle the great challenges of our time and shape the future of the world? Well, because of our commitments, because of our values, among them to bridge divides, to hear each other, to engage with each other, to think critically, to bring evidence to bear on problems. Because we're not in DC. We're in Denver. We're not, yeah. We're not in New York or San Francisco either. We like to say you can see far from here. With distance comes perspective, the ability to see the big picture and imagine how to make it better. You know, new ideas almost always come from outside. And because of our legacy, a story that began with audacity, a Czech immigrant, Joseph Korbel, who believed that a School of International Affairs at the University of Denver could make a difference in this world. Tonight, we really embrace one part of that legacy. Korbel and his family, including his famous daughter, Madeleine Albright, and the whole Albright family and network, his student, Condoleezza Rice, and so many others who have followed, a legacy of women leaders that is very much alive today in this community. So for that reason, we are especially delighted this evening that we are joined by Melinda French-Gates. And we really look forward to hearing from you, recognizing you for all the remarkable contributions you've made to expanding opportunity and advancing progress for women and families in the United States and around the world. And I must say so much more. Before we do that, very importantly, we'll begin by recognizing members of our own community, our faculty, our staff, and our alums whose work reflects the very best of what we aspire to be. So thank you all for being here this evening. And again, welcome to Korbel Honors 2026.
Good evening, everyone. It is really scary to be up here, but I am doing it for a very special person, okay? This is a wonderful event. I am Sachin Desai, a teaching professor at the Korbel School, and I was honored to receive the Korbel Outstanding Teaching Award last year. And so, yeah. But I didn't have to give a speech last year, so this is like They make you pay the price the next year. No, it's good though. So yeah, the Korbel Outstanding Teaching Award, this is a great event. We see, a lot of friends of Korbel, a lot of current students, former students, and, so many other people, all of whom, make Korbel the special place that it is. The Korbel Outstanding Teaching Award is given in recognition of the extraordinary commitment that our faculty, our wonderful faculty, has to our wonderful students. And so it is especially, nice because the recipient of this award is nominated by students, first of all, and then selected by a committee of school leaders. Okay? So this year's awardee is Professor Eileen Grable. And Eileen embodies the commitment that we have to our students, like to the fullest extent. Students talk about how Eileen takes the most complex problems and then breaks them down into something that's clear and engaging and enjoyable. They also talk about how generous she is with her time, the amount of thoughtful feedback that she gives to the students. And most of all, they talk about her genuine investment in their growth, not just as students, but also as thinkers and professionals. So then Eileen, along with Professor George DiMartino, who's sitting right there, they have co-founded and co-directed the Global Economic Affairs Master's Program at Korbel for over 20 years now. And you'll find many of the alums of this program and current students in the audience right now. It's an exceptional program that has graduated many, many outstanding graduates over the years. Okay? And all of them simply adore Eileen and George. Okay? So basically, that's it. I mean, Eileen's going to come up and say her own things as well, but just wanted to introduce a very, very special person. I think Eileen is universally renowned as being an exceptional teacher, a very distinguished scholar of global finance, and most of all, a wonderful human being. So please join me in welcoming Professor Eileen Grable to receive the Korbel Outstanding Teaching Award. Thank you. Yeah, give you the award.
Thank you. Thank you, Sachin. Thank you, everyone, but thank you for the generous words. It has been one of the greatest pleasures of my life to teach at the Korbel School. I learn from and I'm inspired by the hard work, the values, the creativity, and the aspirations of my students. It's truly a privilege to play a small role in helping them to navigate the choices that they're making at a very important time of life, to help them to master difficult subject matter and then to put it to use in achieving their goals. I'm always inspired by the accomplishments of our alumni who contribute to the world in so many ways. Indeed, one of my deepest joys is staying connected to alumni, such as honoree tonight, Maria Langen-Rieckhoff, and learning about the work that they're doing and seeing them serve as mentors for current students. The work that our students and alumni do always has made the world better. It's made the world more just, more peaceful, more prosperous, and more sustainable. This work is more important than ever as our fracturing world faces so many daunting challenges, that of rebuilding after wars, modernizing institutions and relationships, innovating in the face of any number of wicked problems, and re-engaging with the needs of those left behind. Ensuring that we increase access to the Korbel School in the face of these challenges remains more important than ever, given the contributions that our community makes to the world. I've been very fortunate to work with fantastic staff and faculty colleagues. What we do in the classroom is very much a team effort. I'm grateful to everyone that I work with for their support, their friendship, and for what I learned from them. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Rayanne Borey-Zeasley. I am the director of our Office of Career and Professional Development, and as the staff awardee from 2025, I am honored to present our award for 2026 to Debbie Galen. This staff award recognizes someone who has made a meaningful impact on both the Korbel School and the broader DU community through dedication, leadership, and service. And I'm honored to share why my colleague and friend, Debbie Galen, who has served students at the University of Denver for nearly 20 years, including the last 9 at Korbel, was nominated by so many staff and faculty. As Director of Student Affairs, Debbie shows unwavering commitment to student success. She works tirelessly to support students, getting to know each unique student and ensuring all feel welcome and at home at Korbel. Her exceptional knowledge and problem-solving skills guide students and faculty through even the most complex situations. Colleagues who nominated Debbie described her as someone who always has an answer, whose responses arrive within minutes, an excellent problem solver, and the go-to staffer for just about everything. Debbie's impact on the student experience is marked by joy, calmness, and optimism. And she has brought those same qualities to her colleagues, including during her service as a member and chair of the Staff Council. Debbie, on behalf of the entire Korbel community, thank you for all that you do every day.
Thank you so much, Rayanne. The staff in this room know that we work in higher ed not because of the super high salaries, but because we really enjoy helping students and we believe in the mission of what we're doing here. For me, working at Korbel represents the absolute pinnacle of this opportunity to find meaning in work. To be able to support bright, amazing students who will go out and make a positive impact on this world is such an honor and allows me to feel like I have just a little bit of part of putting that good out in the world. I love working with our extraordinary faculty who genuinely care about the student experience and make my job also a little bit easier. So I want to thank any of you who have let me be part of your academic journey and have allowed me to live vicariously through you, especially when you go on amazing trips and come back and tell me all about it. You're all an inspiration. Lastly, I could not get through the day-to-day in this job without such a supportive, collaborative staff at the Korbel School. Thank you. And with a special thanks to the Student Affairs staff, Mayumi and Genevieve, who keep me sane on a daily basis.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nancy Idehe, and I'm a second-year graduate student at the Joseph Korbel School and president of the Korbel Graduate Students Association. It is my honor to present this year's Distinguished Alumni Award. The Korbel Distinguished Alumni Award recognizes graduates who carry the values of this school into the world. Individuals whose careers reflect a deep commitment to purpose, impact, and public service. This year's recipient, Maria Langan-Rakoff, exemplifies that mission in extraordinary ways. Over a 34-year career in the U.S. intelligence community, she held senior leadership roles at the CIA and Office of the Director of National Intelligence, helping shape how the United States understands and responds to global challenges. As Vice Chair of the National Intelligence Council, she led strategic analysis on the risks and opportunities shaping our world and played a central role in the landmark Global Trends 2040 report. Maria has also maintained a strong connection to the Korbel School, serving as both a mentor and career champion for our students and alumni, and as a member of the Korbel Social Science Foundation Board. Her career and service reflect not only deep expertise, but a commitment to rigorous thinking, public service, and long-term global understanding, values that define a Korbel education. Please join me in congratulating the 2026 Distinguished Alumni Award winner, Maria Langan-Rakoff.
I always hate to have to turn the page when you start remarks. Good evening. I am truly honored to accept this award. My sincere thanks to Dean Mayer, the faculty, and the Alumni Board for this recognition. My time at Korbel shaped not only my career, but how I approach national security issues and how I think about leadership. I have found two things that I find really important for a meaningful and fulfilling career. One is a sense of mission. That was never lacking in the intelligence community. The other is a little harder to find. It is being surrounded by people who challenge, who inspire, who uplift one another on a daily basis when it's really hard. One of the greatest privileges of my journey has been the opportunity to learn from and to collaborate with other members of this big Korbel family. I was fortunate to work with amazing, pioneering women, leaders for the government, for the world, in Secretary Albright, Jamie Missick, who was the first woman to lead CIA analysis, and Secretary Condoleezza Rice, whom I get to work with today. I also served with other outstanding, dedicated Korbel alums from across the US government. Many of those made contributions you will never learn about. I'm especially grateful for the scholarship that made my education possible. It wasn't just financial support. Korbel helped me find my voice. It gave me the confidence in my ideas. Moreover, Korbel opened my eyes by offering a broader opportunity to think about what it really means when we say national security. That's a very broad spectrum. Those insights I have carried with me for my whole career. I now call myself a futurist. And as I look ahead, I believe Korbel is uniquely positioned to help the next generation and this broader Denver community as we manage this rapidly transitioning world that those who've come before me have described. Let me finish with just a few really personal thank yous. To my advisor, Eileen Grable, who made monetary theory fun all those years ago. We're talking a lot today about women, and I think we all have to thank our moms. She was the first in her family to go to college. She encouraged me to read widely, and she raised 9 children. To my husband and my partner, Paul, who convinced me to move to Colorado, but has been my strongest backer all of these years. To our 2 children, they put up with a lot during global crises, and they always asked the most difficult questions. They kept me honest, and they kept me focused on what was really important. I accept this award with total gratitude and real humility because there's so many outstanding graduates out there. I recommit myself to learning and to help the next generation find the opportunities that I had. So thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Naz Barma. I'm a professor and associate dean for faculty affairs at the Korbel School and the director of the Scrivener Institute of Public Policy. It is my distinct honor tonight to introduce the Joseph Korbel Award, our school's highest recognition, named for Joseph Korbel himself, the Czech-American scholar and diplomat who founded the Korbel School, and whose life embodied the belief that knowledge, properly applied, can make the world a more just and more peaceful place. The Korbel Award honors an individual who has committed their life to that same vision, to building a world that is more secure, more equitable, and more democratic. This year's recipient is Melinda French-Gates. With the video. We have many more wonderful things to say. A philanthropist and founder of Pivotal, Melinda French-Gates exemplifies a tireless commitment to expanding opportunity for women and girls worldwide, driving philanthropic innovation, and demonstrating that private investment applied with rigor and purpose can change the trajectory of millions of lives. Please join me in watching this short video about her impact.
Melinda was very motivated when she understood that less than 2% of philanthropic funding invests in women and girls. She knew how much potential could be unlocked if we can address this bias against women and create greater equity. There are barriers, unfair barriers, that are holding women back. She does not accept what exists now as what it must be, and she actually works toward what ought to be.
We know that when women thrive, families thrive. And we know that when women are cared for, when they're educated, when they're healthy, an entire family becomes all of those things too.
Melinda is one of the most well-respected philanthropists in the world. When we first got the call that she was going to be investing in our work, I burst into tears. The support that we get from Pivotal is so much more than an investment, so much more than a monetary investment. It is a true partnership.
I feel like in so many other kind of funder relationships, it's done in a very transactional nature. You get a certain amount of money to do a certain thing, but here it's really a partnership with a long-term vision, so it allows for a lot of experimentation, risk, innovation, and a way to really feel as though we have a partner with us for the long term.
I really hope that she understands not just how deep her impact is, but also how much it means to the people that she invests in, that she in particular is investing in them.
Women's lives have looked different in a monumental way, given the support that we've gotten from both Melinda and Pivotal. We have been able to really engage and help a whole new generation of women leaders seek public leadership positions that would not have been able to do so in a non-traditional way without our support and without her engagement in our work.
There's so much change before us. And because of Melinda's support, we're able to think strategically, long-term, about what it will take for our people to have the tools, the resources, the skills, and the opportunities to thrive for themselves, but also for our country to thrive.
When women have their health, everyone comes out better. When women can earn a living and have the option to do that, all wages rise.
If Melinda was listening right now, I would love for her to know that her work matters. She is doing monumental work in a way that has not been done previously, and we are just so grateful for it.
I'd want her to know that her support has been not only a game changer for our work at States United, but it has been a game changer for all of us as leaders.
She sets big, ambitious goals and then tries to figure out where are those leverage points that as a philanthropist, she can take a risk to see if something new will work. She knows and understands that everyone will be better in a world where women have their full power.
On behalf of the entire Korbel School community, it is my great privilege to present this year's Joseph Korbel Award to Melinda French-Gates in recognition of a life's work that has made this world more just, more equitable, and more full of possibility. Please join me in welcoming Melinda French-Gates to the stage to accept this award, along with Dean Fritz Mayer, who will join her in conversation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Well, first of all, thank you for being here.
I'm thrilled to be here.
It is such an honor. It's such a pleasure, and I'm so excited to have a chance to talk with you and to explore your remarkable record. And so thank you very much for being with us this evening.
Well, I'm honored. When I got the invitation late last year, I just was so excited to be here and to just get to be amongst, I always love to be amongst students and faculty in particular because of what universities do for young people to really open and shape their minds. And I know the difference it made for me. And so the topic that you all study at the Korbel School, those were all very, very close to my heart.
Yeah, and thank you so much for spending some time earlier today with our
That was
students.
fun, yeah.
And I know it was a thrill for them and sounded like it was a great conversation. We really get a window into what we do. Well, let me. There's so much we could talk about, but let me sort of start a little bit at the beginning, a bit of the backstory in terms of you, as the film said, and as we all know, you have devoted your life, or your professional life, much of it anyway, to advancing the causes that you really care about. And help us understand sort of how that started. How did you, what was the motivation? What was it that led you to identify these as the causes you wanted to work on?
Well, let me go back, if it's okay, just a little bit in time, just so everybody knows. I grew up in Dallas, Texas, one of 4 children, older sister, me, then 2 younger brothers. My brother is here, and my best friend from the first day of high school, Mary.
Fantastic. How lovely.
Yeah, and but I bring this up because I grew up in Dallas, Texas, 4 kids. But my parents really, really believed we were a Catholic family. We went to church regularly. I went K through 12 to Catholic school. And my parents were adamant that we would get a Catholic education. And so that meant my sister and I went to an all-girls Catholic school. And this factors into how I came to do the work that I do now. The motto of that school was Serviam, that is to serve. Yeah. And the nuns in that school sent us out in the community to serve. And they believed that one person could make the difference in someone else's life. And they taught us that in action. So I worked at the public school that was about 4 miles down the road. I could see the difference in that school versus mine. I worked in the Dallas County Courthouse. I worked in the hospital. And so I really came out of school with this belief that we all have something inside of us that we can share back with others, no matter what form that takes. And so then fast forward, I went to Duke University, studied computer science. You also have a history with Duke, indeed, I know, even though our paths didn't really cross much.
No, we didn't. Although, as I was saying earlier, it was originally called the French Science Building. And we were all very confused about what French science was. And so then it became the French Family Science Building. So I know the building well, and I knew of your presence anyway at Duke for a long time.
That came a little bit later after I had been on campus. So I studied computer science. I got a job at Microsoft, had an amazing career there for 9 years. Left because I wanted to be home with my kids to begin with. I knew I would go back to work. I really wanted to. But when we started the foundation, there was this core belief I had that we could make a difference in the life of someone else. And if you are as privileged as we were as a couple to have these resources that had come from Microsoft, you have responsibility to give them back. And so we started on a journey in global health initially. And I did a lot of traveling, and both at the beginning, but all the way through for 25 years. I was in and out of so many countries in Africa. I was doing an international trip often 3 or 4 times a year, Southeast Asia, et cetera. And as we were doing grant making in global health, I knew that the only way to do what we were doing was to really be in close contact with the communities we were working with. And as I would go out and talk to moms and dads together, I came to realize that we were not getting as much out of our grant making because we weren't focused specifically on women. That if you put grants out, for instance, for a new seed, a drought-resistant seed, and you get a drought-resistant seed or a flood-resistant seed, and you put it out in the marketplace in, say, on the continent of Africa and different countries, they go through the agri-dealers, and the agri-dealers don't reach women. And women are, half the farmers in Africa are women. And so I started to realize we were not focused on the issues in the right way, and so I had to shift the foundation internally, which was not easy at that point because we had a large organization, and shift those in global health and development to realize we were dead serious about gender. Because we didn't focus on gender, we were basically missing half the equation. And as was so eloquently said in the video, you know, when a woman can step into her full power, it's better for her children, it's better for her, it's better for her household, her community, and so goes her country, and so goes the economy. So that's how I came to this work. And it took me a while, I have to be honest, and even after I saw it, it took me courage, because it's not the thing people want to talk about. You know, I go in to meet with presidents and prime ministers, and they don't want to discuss this or invest in this. And you have to convince them that we will invest only alongside you unless if you do this too.
Yeah. It's fascinating to hear you talk about the evolution of your thinking and how you realized, you know, that evolved over time. You didn't initially see that as the kind of key thing. Has your thinking continued to evolve in this area?
Oh, definitely, always. And I hope it keeps evolving. I mean, as you said, as was said earlier, the world is changing before our eyes, right? And my thinking has changed a lot about, at the time we started working on gender at the foundation, the issue I was just squarely focused on was contraceptives, because I knew that when a woman could get a contraceptive, particularly a long-lasting one, but any contraceptive, and use it, she could then space the births of her children and decide if and when to have a child. And that is economically better for her and the family, and it's better for the kids' health. She loses less children, they grow up more healthy. So I thought that was at first the only thing I was going to focus on. And then, you know, the world opened my eyes to so many other issues. And quite frankly, the foundation, about 70% of our grant making was international, and less than, about 30%, a bit less, was US, but it was US education, which I also believe in. But with Pivotal, which I started in 2015, we are much more 70% US and 30% global, because there are so many needs in our own country, and because women's rights in our own country, which I never thought I would see in my lifetime, have been rolled back. My granddaughters have fewer rights than I had growing up, and that makes no sense to me.
I want to come to Pivotal and explore that in a minute, but let me ask you a question as a philanthropist, as someone who's a leader in this space, who's been very influential, just in terms of how you think about what philanthropy can do and what it can't do. And the kinds of problems, the kind of issues, the systemic issues that you're describing are not so easy to solve. And notwithstanding the sums of money that you have, that's actually not an enormous amount of money relative to the scale of the problem. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about how you think about how best to target that money and really leverage the assets that you have as a philanthropist.
So with philanthropy, I think of philanthropy as being part of an ecosystem that can help create change, but it's a part of an ecosystem that includes civil society, the philanthropic sector, government that can scale things up, and the private sector. And so, you know, capitalism, which is the system we live under, does not solve everything. We really see it right now in the United States, the gross inequities that exist. And so, as Warren Buffett would always say to us, look, you're working in philanthropy on the problems that society has left behind, because they are hard. But he said, look, when he started investing in the foundation as well, he said, I want you to take big, bold swings at society, big, bold swings at hard problems. But what you can do, what we came to learn as a set of philanthropists that you can do is you can take experiments, you can try things, you can stimulate certain parts of private sector and business to do things and to create a commercial market that might not have been there before, to get them to do the right thing. So I would say the biggest success we had, I'll use a very specific example here, with the foundation was Gavi, the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization. Literally millions of kids are alive today because of the vaccines that were delivered around the world.
Wonderful.
And by being part of starting that fund, and then we could start to prove it out. We crowded in lots and lots of government funding. We basically went and proved with pharmaceutical companies, we will create a market for you to go and create new drugs, new medicines for diseases that you you have neglected because you didn't think there was a market there. And there's a much bigger market, sorry, but for male pattern baldness, right? and other things. And so we created markets for them, and then we would stimulate them, even with our own philanthropic dollars, to do the right thing, to start creating some of these drugs and then trial them, and then there was a market to pull it through. And so those big, bold swings are things we learned to do in philanthropy.
Yeah, it's very interesting to hear how you leverage those resources to engage the other actors in society, to demonstrate the possibility that, and then other people jump in and supplement what you're doing.
Just to give you a sense, because like if you look back at time or even now at the size of the Gates Foundation, which I've now left, we could have spent down our entire endowment if we had just funded all the schools. Let's say the state backed out of all the schools in California, just California, we would have wrote down our foundation in 2 years, gone. That's how big the school budget is in the state of California, one state. So to use your point, you have to think about each dollar you spend as a way of leveraging others, and take an experiment that maybe you wouldn't want government to do with taxpayer money, see if it plays out, and if so, then get government to scale it.
I can't help but ask, this is kind of a selfish question, is where in that ecosystem are universities? Universities are interesting in some ways kindred spirits in that they're somewhat independent and have flexibility and autonomy. But how do you see the role of the partnership, I guess, between philanthropy and universities?
Well, I think universities, first of all, are fundamental to our country. I often say this, that, I've been to so many places in the world. They would give almost anything to have the university system we have. And I don't mean just universities. I mean our college system, our community college system, all the way through. And so what you all do is educate students to do just what we're talking about, open their minds, to be curious, to come up with experiments, to think of things in new ways. And quite often, new ideas come out of academia. And so one of the reasons I'm, as many people are, so upset about the NIH cuts is, my gosh, NIH has helped fund so much good academic research. Yeah, I mean, and again, why do people want to fly to the United States to get a cancer treatment? Well, because we have done massive funding from our government into cancer research through our university system, and then the universities, you pull that through from lab to bench to actually a product that then people use, and it saves lives. So university to me plays kind of two roles, both the research for society, really fundamentally important research, and educating our populace for the future.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. I mean, we feel like we have an important role to play, for sure.
Definitely do. What drew you to Korbel after being at Duke for 30 years? I mean, I was on the board at Duke for a little while.
Well, I was, that's a great, I love Duke, so, and we did overlap, and I was there, as you said, 30 years, and I didn't really expect to leave, and it's one of those things where someone approaches you about the possibilities, and I initially said I wasn't interested, but then a member of the board, Doug Scribner, who's here today, I think talked me into taking a look. And I knew Doug from Duke. And what happened was that I came and I kind of fell in love with it. I thought this is a remarkable place. For one thing, what you saw earlier, this commitment to teaching, commitment to the student, has always been at the forefront of my belief about my own job. But I also thought there was something remarkable about well, you heard a bit of the backstory, that this school was so prominent and so, you don't expect to have a great School of International Affairs and now Public Policy necessarily in Denver, Colorado. And so that, I loved the faculty, I loved the community, I loved the feel of it, and I thought, this would be a really great opportunity. So I don't regret it. This is 7 years in, and it's been a great experience here.
Well, just meeting some of the students today, I met 4 students, as you know.
Yes.
Nancy, who was on stage, and Gina was another one who was on video. Just, to hear how the school has transformed them in terms of their thinking and who they want to be, but the opportunities, the opportunities to go and be international, just not on just a nice international trip, but to be in community with people on the ground. I've always believed, again, because I was so lucky to travel for so long, and I still travel, but is that if everyone in the United States could go abroad and see, for instance, what your students have seen and be really in touch with communities, we would think so differently about the rest of the world. We are so much more, have so much more alike. We have so much more in common than we have that's not in common. It's really something.
It really is. I mean, our students always inspire us. As you met Nancy, and she introduced Maria a moment ago, and last week, I guess 2 weeks ago, she and her colleagues organized a day conference on Africa that was extraordinary. The energy, the enthusiasm, the optimism, the determination that our students have are really what are most satisfying, I think, for all of us. And let me turn it back to you, though. Pivotal, a different kind of venture. Interestingly, and we talk about both the substance of what you do, and I'm actually going to start with the kind of the structure of it, because it's not you still do philanthropy, but it's also advocacy and it's investment, and I'm curious about that in terms of what you learned through your experience before that led you to create a different kind of structure when you set up Pivotal.
Yeah. So Pivotal is an umbrella of several different organizations, for sure, philanthropic dollars, absolutely. But then I have an advocacy organization that I spend advocacy dollars through, and I'll explain why, and then I have an investment arm. And the purpose of that is to use what I believe are every single tool in my toolbox to advance society. So sometimes that looks like a traditional philanthropic grant to an organization. Sometimes it is, I want to help push a piece of public policy forward with our partners. And so, for instance, one thing I care deeply about is paid family medical leave, because I believe it will change society. We've seen it in the Nordic countries who've had it for over 30 years. Men look at you. When you ask, I've interviewed men there, like, did you stay home with the birth of your child? And they look at me like, what a dumb question. Like, of course I did. And it's not an economic decision. They're like, of course I stayed home. I wanted to be part of my child's life. And it pays off. It's literally changed the norm in society about the parenting roles for men and women. Anyway, so I can fund things like paid family medical leave, the advocacy for that through an advocacy organization. And then I have investment dollars for their times that I want to invest in entrepreneurs. They are the engines of our society who are creating new things for society, but sometimes, not sometimes, oftentimes, I'm going to just be blunt here, the men's ideas get funded, but the women's don't. And if you are a black woman, your idea really does not get funded. And I've met lots of great women with lots of great ideas. Yeah. And particularly ideas in whole new fields like caregiving. We have an aging population. We have got to create some tools that help us care for the elderly. We certainly have started to create tools that help us with the young, right? Lots of things have come along since I was a mom. But so I want to use all three parts of my toolbox to try and move society forward. So that's why I have all three of those structures housed under one umbrella.
I have to tell you a quick story. I was at the bar earlier. I was just getting water. The server asked, what is happening tonight? And I said, well, we've this wonderful event for the school and for the university, and that Melinda French Gates is here. And she said, oh, really? She said, you're kidding. She funds my mother's foundation. I don't know, a project or program or whatever. So you're touching all kinds of people, and that was just here at the bar was wonderful. Now your focus is on, as you just articulated, several different things, but a significant one is really in the general space of empowering women, and particularly, at least one of the projects is really around women in political power.
Yes.
So why that?
Okay.
Why does that matter?
Okay, so yeah, let me say one other thing just to clarify on Pivotal. So that's the way I go about the funding, is those three structures. But the fundamental thing that we are focused on, like dead focused on bullseye, as Warren Buffett used to say, find your bullseye and work on that and let other things drop away. We are focused on how do we lift up women in society? How do we help women step into their full power? And for me, that means you have to invest in their health, because if you don't have good health, it's very hard to live the life and to thrive the way you want to. Secondly, it's their political power, and I'll explain that. And third, it's their economic power. So when women can take any decision they want, they have the resources they want and can control their resources, and they can shape policy, things really change. So the piece of that, as you said, the political piece, I am hyper-focused on that. One of my three things is the political space, because what we know is that when women get into political positions, they create different policies. So there are 7,000 seats at the state legislature. That is a fantastic place to get women to serve, is in their state legislature, because they are also moving they're making good policy, they're moving money towards things, and guess what? It's also a great training ground to go to the Hill in Congress if that's what they decide they want to do. And so when you get more women in a state legislature, they make different policy. So there are 3 states now that have a majority of women in the state legislature. One of them is here in Colorado. And what we find is that women focus more on family issues. And it's not a surprise, but women see the full spectrum. They're trying to live a life of working and having kids, or taking care of the elderly and having kids. And so they're saying, look, we need good child care policy in our state. We need paid family medical leave. We need to deal with the mental health crisis that's going on in our state. So women will find common ground to work on those things. I was just in a setting 3 weeks ago where there were 2 senators from Arkansas. These 2 women could not have been more different. Different religious backgrounds, different upbringings, different parts of the state. One was Republican, one was Democratic. These 2 women didn't agree on much, but they absolutely agreed on the importance of the family. And so they had put their differences aside, and they were working on fantastic education policy and contraceptives and also mental health. And they said, we have to agree to disagree a lot on other things, but when she needs me, I show up for the vote. And I get my caucus together, and even though we're not the caucus in power, we vote with her. And boy, she shows up for me when I need her. And I thought, that's what good legislating looks like. And that's why I focus on women in political positions.
Well, let me follow up on that very point, because you have, as you just described, a real interest in bridging divides and bipartisanship, and I alluded to this in my opening remarks, but I think we all know we're in some trouble there. And I should say this is really
deep trouble.
Yeah. I mean, I should shout out to my colleagues at the University of Denver, because we've really made that a centerpiece of this university, of trying to help our students learn to talk to each other, listen to each other, engage with each other across divides and differences. So
super important.
Yeah. But talk to me about how you go about that. Obviously, in the example you just gave, but are you doing that in a more intentional way and trying to build these kind of bridges and span these divides?
Absolutely. So I'm both investing in organizations that are helping women learn how to run for office and create good policy. So I both invest in that side. But one of the organizations that was up there today, Leadership Action Now, their entire goal is to get more centrist women to run, and to run in purple and red states. And so I fund them. I'm involved with, you've probably heard of something that was started by the governor of Utah. He's a Republican, and it's called Disagree Better. And it's how to bring Democrats and Republicans together to have real conversations. And I'm just gonna say this right here, just so everybody knows, I have voted on both sides of the aisle. So I've voted for Republican presidents, and I have voted for Democratic presidents. And I vote based on character and record and what I think they will do for the country. And I think we are a better nation when we are centrist. I don't really care whether you're left of center or right of center. It doesn't really matter. It's, are we creating the future we want for this country? And do you know that right now, in these times where people are very polarized for lots of the reasons we all know, what people are saying is they want a return to the center. And so, yes, I am funding various organizations that are trying to help us find the center of our democracy again.
It's kind of hard to think of a more important problem to work on, because if we don't solve that one, we may not be able to get at the others either.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I mean, one of the things I learned extraordinarily early when I was out learning for the foundation, I was learning in the education space at first in the United States, and I ran into this amazing teacher who'd been teaching for over 30 years. She was starting her own schools in Boston, and I walked into the school. It was in the middle of a terrible part of Boston, and I walked through the school doors, and I wasn't there 8 minutes, and I thought I would put my kids in this school. And as we walked around and we talked about how she created the school and others, she said, you know, Melinda, the most important thing about education, and I said, no, what? And she said, it's fundamental to our democracy. She said, if we don't educate our students, she was running a K-8 school, they won't be ready to be citizens of our democracy. And I'm just gonna say a couple other things along this point, just to, because this is very personal for me. So all three of my kids, because let's be honest, they have grown up in a very privileged lifestyle. I am incredibly privileged to be in the situation I'm in, as were they and as are they, having grown up. But I made sure they spent a lot of time in Africa. And not just on the nice safari, but time literally on the ground. We lived with some families, they lived with families. My youngest daughter ended up going to an African school, not an international school that's filled with a lot of kids from the US and Europe, but an African school. And I think they had 4 kids from Europe and 4 from the US, and the rest were African. And the students, which was amazing, came from all over the continent. And they were students who had gone through high school and wanted to do one more year so they could then get into US universities. Anyway, I got to sit in on some of these classes for a couple days when I went to visit her, my daughter, my youngest, and they were talking about various issues, and she was chiming in with her point of view. And they said, no, 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 you don't get it, to her. And she's like, what don't I get as an American student? They said, you don't get that your democracy works and ours does not. And you have a free press and we don't. So one of them said, my father could go to jail and we would never see him again. And I thought, God, you know, we take our democracy for granted, right? And yet now that it's under attack, it is up to us, we the people, to say, no, this is what we believe. This is what we expect
from our own leaders in this country. And one of the encouraging things I heard from these two senators from Arkansas that actually gave me more hope for our democracy, separate from the headlines that you read when you open your news feed every day, is they said, look, in our state houses, when the cameras go off, things are very different. We roll up our sleeves and we get the job done. They said, so, it's not just the social media, get your face out there. They said, we know the work of governing. And I thought, oh, thank God people are doing that and doing that at the state level.
You're talking about leadership, and over the course of the year, I've done a series of conversations with people about leading in this moment, and I'd love to just take a couple of minutes. We'll soon run out of time, but to explore how you think about leading. I had some quotes from people about you in terms of your leadership, that that your style is grounded in listening, humility, a willingness to engage in complexity rather than simple solutions. As you reflect on your own leadership, how do you think about yourself?
So I'll talk about leadership in general and how I think about it, because I do think about leadership a lot, and I think about culture a lot, because when we set out to start the Gates Foundation, I really was the one that was there, and I was very purposeful about the culture I wanted to create there. And I know that culture comes from the top, right? And I wanted to make sure that, yes, it was a very intellectual place, but it was a place that we treated each other with dignity and with kindness, and that we showed up with humility. And what I will say to you, what I've learned about my own leadership, or what I believe in leadership, is you have to lead with your values. You have to know what your values are. And that's the only way I know how to lead, is know what my values are and live into those values inside your organization, because then your organization will reflect that and will reflect that out to the world. And so I believe the only way to work as a philanthropist is to be in conversation with others and to listen very carefully. I mean, what I have been schooled in over 25 years from all the trips I've been on, I never would have seen the contraceptive problem around the world, because the data didn't show it for women. I literally looked at all the data. I'm a geek at heart, okay? I'm a computer science graduate. The data didn't show it. It showed that contraceptives were stocked in. But when you talk to the women, they're like, no. What's stocked in are condoms. I can't use a condom. If I try to use a condom in my marriage, I'm either accusing my husband of being unfaithful, that he might have HIV, or that I've been unfaithful. And so literally, we weren't collecting the data. We didn't collect the data on women's lives. So it's in the listening and learning that you say, oh, this is what's needed. Oh, this is how we might work and do this work. And then it's, as you saw up on that screen, it's in concert with many partners. And we have to be flexible and listen to our partners. Like during COVID, they said to us, look, we are in crisis here. We need more just sort of flexible funding. And so we did that during COVID so they could keep their doors open and keep doing their work.
That's a marvelous description of leadership. We have a room full of people here, all of whom, in some ways or another, make a difference in this world, and maybe are looking actually for ways that they could do more. And so I'm curious, just how can all of us, wherever it is that we sit, be leaders in addressing the problems of the day?
Well, I would say start in your own backyard. So if you are going to stay, if you're a student and you're going to stay here in Denver, or you're a teacher, an alum, and you're here in Denver, there are many issues in your own community, in your own county, that can use your services. So whether that's your intellect, whether that's your time, whether it's the way you do finances or you think about marketing, all of these small nonprofits can benefit from your skills. If not, tutor a kid. My God, do you know, I've gone around the world and asked people, who's made the biggest difference in your life? The answers you seem to always get are a teacher, a coach, or a parent. Well, if you're a tutor, you're coaching a kid, not just on math maybe, but on life skills. So I would just say there are so many places to intervene. And if you're a global student who's come here and you're going back to another place, to a country, find something you're passionate about. You know, it's people that make a difference in the world. And one person, the nuns in my school were right, one person does make the difference in the life of someone else. So it doesn't always have to be big. It can also be kind of one-on-one. There's an old quote from Mother Teresa that I love that says, "We can do no great things. We can only do great things with large love." And I love that.
That's lovely. That's so lovely. That seems like the place to end our conversation. I know we are out of time. Thank you all for being with us this evening. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your thoughts with us this evening.
Thanks
It's
for what
been
you
a
do
real
to
pleasure.
educate students.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here.